What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today in Modern Warfare we got a new title update, and with this there's a bunch of content that dropped. We got some new maps, which I'm going to show off in the background as my sort of filler gameplay since I didn't have any saved up. But today I mainly want to focus on the gameplay related changes that we saw with this title update. There were a bunch of bug fixes and things like that. Of course, if you want to check out all the details, I will leave that linked in the description down below. But the stuff I'm most interested in is the stuff that you'll actually see in a game-to-game sort of a basis. And first up, the big one here that stood out to me is they made more footstep adjustments with this update. They stated that they reduced the audible range of third-person footsteps, so that just means how you're able to hear other people's footsteps. And they also increased the occlusion on footsteps, which has to do with how well you can hear footsteps through walls or when the enemy is behind some form of cover. Additionally, and the first thing we're going to look at in the testing here, is they adjusted various Foley sounds that played at a larger range than the footstep range during the aim down sight or crouch movements. And these Foley sounds are not your actual footstep sounds, but this is like your gun rattling or your clothing even rubbing against itself. You can hear those sounds at a greater distance than you can hear the footstep sounds if you're crouch walking or aim down sight walking. So with this update, they just brought that more in line with where the actual footstep audio is when crouch walking or aim down sight walking, so you're actually going to be a bit more silent while performing these actions. But instead of just telling you about it, let's actually have a look at the change here. First up, I'm going to show you the pre-patch and then post-patch. Really pay attention to the rattling or fabric sort of sounds on the enemy character. So this one is very subtle, but when you're really looking for it, you can definitely notice a difference here. And this could be the type of thing that does save your life in the odd situation where you're either crouch walking or aim down sight walking towards your target. But next up, let's have a listen to the general footstep audio and how that's changed based on your different stances. First up, let's have a look at what it sounds like pre-patch versus post-patch when the enemy is walking at full speed. So having a very careful look and listen to that back to back several times, I'm definitely noticing that the range at which you're able to first pick up that footstep is slightly reduced post-patch, and also the overall volume is very, very slightly reduced. This is something that you can barely tell, but I can also see it in the peaks with my video editing software. It is very slightly toned down, so it's not quite as loud as before. But if you're really paying attention, you can absolutely still hear that person approaching if you're in a quiet situation. Let's take this to the next level though and have a look at sprinting both pre-patch and post-patch. Once again, I'm seeing and hearing a very, very subtle change here. The footstep audio was definitely adjusted a very small amount, but I'm not sure if this actually is enough to make a big difference in game. I don't think it's going to change any situations if the enemy is not aiming down sight or not crouch walking. They're still going to be able to pick you up pretty easily. It's just very, very slightly reduced. But we're not quite finished testing the footsteps yet. We also want to test the occlusion a bit, which, like I said, this is how much you're able to hear enemies' footsteps through walls. So first up, let's have a listen to pre-patch versus post-patch when walking at full speed without sprinting. With this, I'm definitely noticing a reduction here. It's not quite as loud or clear hearing those footsteps through the walls, which is nice to hear. But now let's have a listen to when the enemy is sprinting in that situation. Once again, definitely an improvement here. It's still very loud footsteps, so you can absolutely hear that person coming, but it's not quite as loud as it was pre-patch. So those are the changes they made to the footstep sounds. Honestly, not a massive change by any means, but there definitely was a slight adjustment there. Now, one other audio change that they made with this update that I think is an excellent quality of life update is with Scorestreaks, they also adjusted the occlusion, especially with the VTOL. It wasn't working properly, so if you guys remember pre-patch, if you're inside a building and there was a VTOL outside, it was so painfully loud to hear that, and it didn't make a difference if you were inside or outside. Now, it actually does make a difference. Have a quick listen here.
All objectives, retake those points.
So very clearly, once you get inside now, the VTOL is not going to be nearly as loud as when it's outside. And after hearing this, I now actually have slightly mixed feelings because this is how it absolutely should be, and it's great that you can escape that really loud noise because the VTOL is way too loud in my opinion. However, another part of me was thinking it was always nice to get a VTOL up because it was like having dead silence on because nobody could hear your footsteps coming. Now, after this update, people that are sitting inside buildings are going to be able to hear your footsteps just fine. And that might be a little bit annoying for those people that like to be aggressive, like myself. Again, I think that's more so just highlighting the problem with the footstep audio. I do feel it is still a bit too loud considering the fact that we don't have a permanent dead silence option, but that's just my opinion on that. But moving on to the next gameplay related change with this update, this was actually a buff to the flinch for all of the marksman rifles, which, if you guys missed my video from yesterday, I covered the flinch for all of the different weapons and exactly how it works in this game. And in that video, I even mentioned that it would be nice to see a slight reduction to flinch for marksman rifles because they just have significantly more flinch compared to the assault rifles, LMGs, and SMGs. So this right here is the flinch for the EBR pre-patch, which, as you can see, you're kicking well above the enemy player's head. And post-patch, you can see that it's definitely cut down a little bit, although you are still kicked a little bit above the enemy player's head. Taking this into graphic form, as you can see here, it was a significant reduction. It looks like about a 40% reduction to the amount of flinch you get when using marksman rifles. So that's really nice, but just keep in mind you're still going to have more flinch than you would have with LMGs, SMGs, and assault rifles. Of course, you can always cut that down with the focus weapon perk though. But finally, there was one last gameplay-related change, and this was an adjustment to the Snakeshot ammunition on the 357. And with this, they basically just made it so that your hipfire spread doesn't change depending on your stance. So if you crouch or go prone, you don't get a significantly tighter hipfire spread, so it's a little bit of a nerf to that Snakeshot ammo. I should point out, though, they didn't fix the really weird inconsistencies while aiming down sight. It seems like with this gun, every second shot that you fire, you will get a very significantly tighter hipfire spread, and in most cases, all of the pellets will go into the same hole, whereas all the other shots will give you a pretty wide spread while aiming down sight. And this is leading to a lot of inconsistencies with this gun with Snakeshot equipped on it, and I just wanted to point out that that is still happening after this update. But with that pretty much wraps it up for everything I wanted to cover from this update in today's video. I'm going to be going into much greater detail on the maps and my opinion on those maps in the not too distant future on the channel. But of course, I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think of this patch so far? Do you like the changes that they've made? Do you think it was enough? Are there more changes that you're hoping to see? Just let me know those thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.